What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about LTCN and BCHG at the request of Kwang Yadong and Dialogue Kayaker. We're doing this one for you guys. Looking at, and specifically Kwang Yadong, you had a very, as you put it, needy request, which is okay. I kind of answered these questions already in a video, and I left a link in the comment, so I hope, not in the comment on this video, but on the comment that you left me from the previous video. I left a link in there to a video that might explain these questions a little bit, but I'll try to go over it here as well. But let's do the general TA first. Looking at the weekly RSI, very beautiful structure. Could you come down lower and still hold that? Yeah, absolutely. You could come down lower and still hold that nice structure. So don't be surprised if you do. This week already is looking a little bit bearish, is it not? Actually, the week's ended already. And look at what you did with this week. You tipped your 618 golden ratio, tipped it, and then came down and closed all the way down here. You didn't close below your 382. That would have been the tip of the iceberg if you closed below that. But what else comes in line with that 618 golden ratio right there? Previous areas of support back here, which have now become resistance at your golden ratio, relatively speaking. Yes, I think you're going lower. Absolutely, I do. As far as like where that low is going to be, you know, if we kind of draw an imaginary line here, right, looking at this to some degree, we just kind of went down like that. I would think below $7 is a safe bet. This green line, the 123 moving average, is kind of like lining up with that in itself. Above $6, I think, is a very strong possibility. Below $7 is a very strong possibility. I would say below $6 is a possibility. Not a very strong possibility, but a somewhat decent possibility. But I kind of wouldn't be surprised if you held support at this 0.5 area, right? I'm not necessarily expecting prices down here, but I wouldn't be thrown off if I saw that. You could go below $5. You could, but I don't think you're going to. I can be wrong. I can be 100% wrong. This thing could go to 0. No, probably it doesn't. It probably won't. but I think this volume is really nice. I think this is a very beautiful looking structure as far as the bottoming pattern goes. You're just going to see a standard retracement, which at a minimum would be at the 382, which you kind of did there. But if you're looking at this for what it is on like a price action basis, that to me, it kind of works, I suppose. But I think you're going lower, man. And with the overall climates of the markets right now and that rejection off your 618, I think you are going lower. If I'm wrong, hold support here, break above that level, break above your 618. We'll have a whole different conversation next week, you guys, if that happens. I don't think it will, though. I'm looking at the daily here. Yeah, it looks like it wants to go down. Not only did you reject your 618 this week, but you also closed back below your 50 level here. I think you want to go lower. Rejected your bullish area of control. Yeah. Yep. As far as let's say where I'm expecting it to go is probably really close to this green line. I personally, if I was looking to buy, knowing myself, I'd probably buy around 650. 660, sure, we can do that. This one's for Kwang Yadong specifically. Price targets. The minimum expected zone to hit, in my opinion, is all the way up here, $2,300. That might come as a shock to some people, but to me it's not that shocking, especially whenever you take into consideration that I consider Litecoin itself will be worth $1,000 to potentially $2,500 by the end of this cycle. If this thing has a premium, now what I do hypothesize based off of what we saw last cycle is that when Litecoin sees its all-time high, this will not be at its all-time highs, or it'll be the premium will be lessened, right? Maybe it'll be at its all-time highs, but that premium will go down, right, as it did last time. It hung out in these areas. Litecoin continued to grow here throughout all these months, but LTCN did not. That premium shrunk, right? So maybe we do hit this price. Maybe Litecoin's only at $1,000 or $500 or something like that, or less than that even. And then we just meander for a bit until Litecoin itself gets to like 2,500, and then we go down. Who knows? Maybe we do go all the way up to 5,000, or I very much doubt 15,000. But technically, that is a possibility. But I doubt that one. That one seems as a bit of a stretch to me. But let's say you bought at $6.60, $6.59 technically, but $6.60, whatever. To see the minimum expected zone that I do expect LTCN to go to, you would see a 34,451% growth. Now, what is that in terms of X's? That would be a 345.5x. 345.5x. You were asking if there'd be a 50x or a 100x potential. 345.5x is the overall expectation that I think for this thing. Now, let's say it doesn't do that. Let's say I'm wrong. I'm a human. I can be wrong. I've been wrong before, guys. If, there's a lot of you that want to pretend that I'm right all the time, and I appreciate it. It's really good for my ego. But I've been wrong, like in the past week I've been wrong, right? One example I can think of for Diesel Killer, if you're watching this one, I called SoFi would drop. It pumped 20%, literally like the next day, the next week. It like pumped overnight. And I was calling for it to drop like immediately, and it just pumped. I am not a prophet. I am not a seer, to some degree maybe, but not like, I'm not psychic, man. Nobody knows the future 100%. And what I'm trying to say is, just because this is my minimum expectation doesn't mean it has to be hit. We could stop literally near the all-time highs. If we did that, that would be a near 77x. We could see a lower high. And if we saw a lower high, I would expect the 786 to the 886 to be hit. And then we're talking about a 23, 24x, potentially a 39x at the best. Those are all possible numbers, and those aren't the numbers I normally talk about, but Kwang Yidong, you asked, so I'm letting you know. Is it possible to not even see a 50x for LTCN? Yes. But would anybody and everybody be happy to 20x their money? I would. I would. It seems shallow and despairing when you think about a 300 and something x. It definitely does. But I'll just say, looking at this thing for what it is, the most volume we've got with that kind of low, Litecoin itself seeing new all-time highs that it hasn't seen in multiple cycles, a lower high in LTCN just doesn't seem, that doesn't seem in the stars for this thing. I think you're going to get a higher high, okay? And at this rate, as ridiculous as it sounds, multiple hundreds of X's. Multiple hundreds of X's, you guys. All my X's live at $2,300. Even at the current price, that would be a 200x, a 206x. So good job LTCN. If you have the patience to do it. Now the thing is, remember you guys, if this does hit up here, maybe someone buys or sells $1 worth. Maybe in this whole range, there's like $100,000, $1 million even worth of volume up here before it comes back down. So if you want to sell, and maybe not, maybe it goes up higher than that. Again, I'm talking about the minimum expectation, but this thing is low liquidity. Low liquidity means low volume. So if you want to sell up there, if you're holding for the long term, there's nothing wrong with getting your sell order set now, because it is first come, first serve. Whoever has their sell order now, by the time it's next year, if someone a month away from where the top happens, they decide to put their sell orders in, you're first in line because you set it up now. So if you don't have any LTCN because you sold it all up here and you're waiting to buy back, well, boo-hoo, you can't set your sell orders. That's okay. But for the people that are holding, technically, like, boo-hoo on them because they won't be able to buy lower unless they do buy more. But just food for thought. None of this is financial advice, but just food for thought. It is first come, first serve, to my knowledge, unless they're doing things shady under the table, but I doubt they are. And you wanted to know when. As far as that goes, my other video, I felt like I did a pretty good job of explaining when I would expect that to happen. It could be as early as sometime this year. I don't think it will. I would assume probably you probably see those highs in the first to second quarter of 2025. Probably late Q1 is what I'm thinking, or early Q2. Absolutely, you could see those highs come in Q3 or Q4. Absolutely, you could. It's not in my realm of expectations. As far as when to DCA out goes, that's a personal choice. It's a real personal choice. I don't like to necessarily DCA out. I mean, kind of. I don't DCA out based on time. I do it based on price. Some people will DCA out like once a week they'll have cells set up, or once a day, or once a month they'll have, or twice a month. Me, I would have different prices set. So, like if I think that the price is going to go all the way up here at 2,300, I might have some sold at 2,000. I might have a good bit sold at 2,300. I might have another sell order set all the way up at 5,000 because that's where the 1414 is. But the majority of it would probably be closer to this, and I would layer it. It's the same thing as like DCAing essentially, but it's more like layering, because DCAing, when I think DCAing, when most people think DCAing, they're talking about time. Yes, there's prices involved, but it's more about time. You DCA based on like once a week, twice a week, stuff like that. Layering is like you could have 3 of your orders hit in one day if the price is crazy enough, but they're layered throughout different levels. And that's how I would do it. If I was holding LTCN right now, I would probably layer some sell levels. I've got buy orders set for certain cryptos, you guys, that I've been holding for over a year because I expect those levels to be hit. On lows. And actually saying that, there's one of them, Dogecoin, I need to change because I don't think that low is going to come in anymore. But I've had that, technically that one I have had set over a year. And there's some that I've had set for, 6 months, longer than that. I'm waiting for prices to go lower. And there's some that I have already set for sell orders too, where I think the prices are going to be near the all-time highs. That's just how I work, because guess what? You can change those orders at no cost at all at any time you want. So why not set them up now? If you have an idea as to where you want to sell, nothing wrong with that. That's not financial advice. It's just how I do it. Could it be flawed? Could there be something wrong with that? Maybe. I like to do that though, because again, it is first come, first serve. But that's LTCN. I hope that helps. I hope that gets people a little bit excited for the potential highs to come. We don't really talk about that too often. We don't measure it, but yes, I do think it's very possible. For those of you who are wondering, what's the significance of this 1272? What is it? Well, it's the Fibonacci ratio. I'm not going to go into too much depth on it. I am going to make a video soon explaining this and how I use it and the relevance in the charts, but how I try to explain it daily, basically by using it, is just through examples, right? And you don't necessarily need to understand it to see the relationship it has. But long story short, the Fibonacci sequence is a sequence of numbers that this guy named whatever Fibonacci discovered, came upon like a long time ago. And within this sequence are numbers and patterns that are relevant to not just nature, not just art, but psychology and the universe and like all kinds of things that we find literally in this universe. The 61.8% it's a ratio of the Fibonacci that continues to come up a lot. It's a very common ratio that just seems to come up throughout all different forms of life. But the long story short, these numbers are not only are they like to some degree they hold like an I don't know what the word is for anomaly, but an anomalical, like an anomaly kind of based significance. But they also hold mathematical significance, and if you want to call it like fooey, whatever, like spiritual significance, maybe it is, man. I think numbers. I think if the universe could speak to us, if we were to encounter some kind of higher being, the one thing that we would be able to communicate first and foremost, hopefully, unless they were so advanced that we couldn't, would be math. We might not understand language as well. We'd have to learn, but math is something that transcends language, right? We can all do math, right? We know what one sounds like. That's one, right? That's two. We can build from there. I'm going off on a whole tangent here, but long story short, these numbers are all based on things that are relevant in our known universe. Look it up. Type in Fibonacci sequence, Milky Way galaxy spirals. The spirals in our galaxy correspond with the Fibonacci sequence. Sound waves, certain harmonics and frequencies, certain music, the way that like some of the most beautiful songs we like correspond with the Fibonacci sequence. Like it's I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, man. I love math. I really do. It's getting me going, but you don't even need to do the math because the fib scales here are already there for you. And I have numbers just so you know. The 0.69 is not a Fibonacci ratio. The 0.5 is not a Fibonacci ratio, though it comes standard with most fib scales. The 0.69 is not a Fibonacci ratio either. Everything else, to my knowledge, is. But the 618 is the golden ratio. The 1272 would be the minimum extension. The $1,541 area, the 1618, would be the maximum kind of expected extension. And when I say minimum and maximum, this is based off of personal experience. Some of it's based off of what I've discovered by like my own findings, I guess, from experience, but also from reading things. But I don't believe in my time of learning about fibs I've ever had an article online or somebody else talk about this being the expected range. I've kind of defined that myself because time and time and time again, this is the expected range. And I have, I've developed that from some people saying this was a deep extension, this was a deep extension, these are deeper extensions, right? Whenever you see anything into the twos, generally whenever I've heard people talk about the deeper extensions, it's always the twos, the threes, the fours, whatever, it's deeper. But I, in my experience, much past the 1618, that is deeper. That's not as common. It's more common in smaller fib retracements. Man, I'm getting off. I'm doing a fib video right now when I'm trying to just talk about BCHG here. BCHG, from top to bottom, rejected the 0.5. The 382 is all the way down here at 237, about $1 lower. Yeah, I think you go there. I do. At least there. At least there. Can you go lower? Yes. Yes, you can. RSI looks good for it on the weekly. Daily RSI, yeah, looks like you want to go lower, I would say. I want to go back to the weekly, though, real quick. Get rid of the RSI here. Bottom to top. 382 all the way down here below $2, right? The minimum that I was expecting, right, it was about $1 lower, about 237, 230, something like that. The green line here on the weekly, the 123 moving average, the 123 is not a Fibonacci number either. It's just a number of, in my opinion, spiritual significance. 1, 2, 3 does mean go ahead, right? I'm a hippie at heart, you guys. Okay, all right. I'm a spiritual person at heart, but in my soul, I suppose. But the 123 also, it has other significant meanings. Okay, you take 123 hours. That's basically 5 days, right? 24 times 4 would be 96. Yes, 96. And then times 5 would be 120. So it's 3 hours more than 5 days, but it's 123 based on an hourly. So if you go on the hourly time frame, that is an average of essentially 5 days. You take 123 on a daily format, that's a third of a year. It's a little bit, it would be a little bit more than a third of a year technically, but very close. And that's why I like it, because it's to me, 1, 2, 3 has significant meaning. I got married on 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? January or December 31st, 2023. That's 12, 23, or 12, 30, 12, 2, 3. It would be 12, 31, 23. That's what it was. So it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And beyond that, it also is just really close to a lot of chronological things that makes sense as well. So that's why I find significance on it. I find a lot of charts do have significance on it too. And that 1, 2, 3 moving average on the weekly being in line with this 382, I very much would expect that you go around there. Probably just below $1.78, probably. Could you find support a little bit above it? It's not common, but sure, you could. Generally speaking, with the 382, you do go a little bit below it, but sure, you could find support on it, or even a little bit above it. They're just lines. They're not requirements. But if we take this for what it's worth, top to bottom, or bottom to top here, low to this relative high, you went a little bit below your 382 there, prime example. The next high, you went a little bit, but basically bounced right off it a few times, 382. Would I expect the same thing to happen here? Yes. Yes, I do. It's a very common thing to do. as you can see. I literally just pulled out 2 examples right there. So $1.78, probably just below it. If I was looking to buy this, like if I was to buy this myself, I'd probably get in at like $2, probably. $1.90 at the lowest. You know, I wouldn't try to catch the absolute bottom because you never know, man. There are a lot of you who are interested in buying this thing. If enough volume comes in, if it gets front ran, the expected areas don't end up happening because there's so much interest, and there's a lot of interest right now. So if you want to get in this thing, if you want to try and catch the absolute bottom, I respect it. I understand. Maybe you can. I gave up those days. I gave up those days of trying to be perfect. I just want to get in at a decent price and get out at a decent price. I don't care about catching the bottom or the top. And whenever you do plan that and it actually falls just shy of the expected zones and you bought above, so you actually bought the bottom by expecting to buy a little bit above where the expected zone was, you feel great. You feel smart. You're like, this is why I do this. And that's happened for me a few times. So I think it's always good to not, as counterintuitive as it sounds, it's good to not try to catch the bottom. It's good to not try to catch the top. Catch around it. It's a lot less stressful, in my opinion. But as far as BCHG goes, BCHG, if you were to go all the way down to $1.78, the weekly 123 is down there, right? $1.78, something like that. Let's just say $1.82, sure. $134x. Nuts. Could it see the 1618? I actually think it could. I know it's crazy. I know 830x almost from that low, let alone from the current price, 400 and something. It's nuts. It's nuts. But you know, I do think it's possible, mainly because I think Bitcoin Cash itself could see, from its current prices, could see a 100x or beyond that this cycle. And if it does, this thing's going to go nuts. It's going to go absolutely bananas, man. So, I mean, does it happen? I'm not betting on it. You know, as I've run the numbers in my head, I've been betting on it a little bit more. But this area to this area, in my opinion, is a lot more expected. And that would take you to like a 282x, 134x, almost 135x, still really good gains, right? And those are like the minimum targets. So could it go somewhere in between? Could it go somewhere in between here? Absolutely, you know. But people ask me all the time, which one do I like more, BCHG or LTCN? I like BCHG. How, Chris? C-Zar? Why do you like BCHG? Chris is my real name, in case nobody knew that. But I've been good about not saying that. But man, I got. Anyways, I've said it in plenty of videos, so you know it's not like some grand secret. But the reason I like BCHG more, even though yes, I kind of have a more of an expectation that LTCN does better, is because I like Bitcoin Cash more. I just like Bitcoin Cash. I have more faith in the growth potential of Bitcoin Cash than I do Litecoin. LTCN has less liquidity, so therefore it does have more room to grow technically, or like it's easier for the price to move, if that makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, essentially liquidity, right, is like the volume that you see, like that's available essentially in the order books. With lower liquidity means there's thinner order books, which means you can move prices easier essentially. Okay, BCHG, definitely thinner liquidity than GBTC, definitely thinner liquidity than Bitcoin Cash, but with more liquidity you probably see less growth probably. But if BCH does really well, BCHG could do really well. And could Litecoin see a 600x or an 800x too? It's possible. Litecoin on the Grayscale Trust, LTCN, sure, it's possible, but I would think it's more possible for Bitcoin BCHG to see these numbers than for LTCN to see these numbers. While simultaneously, the minimum expectations, in my opinion, which are more possible for both of them, LTCN has the higher rate of growth than BCHG does. So why do I like BCHG more than LTCN? It's really just because I like BCH more. That's personally it. That doesn't mean that one's better than the other. Watch both of them do great, you know, equally. Watch one of them make like a 2x more than the other, and they're like actually pretty tied. Or LTCN does a whole 100x better than BCHG. They're both still going to do great. So this video's gone on long enough, man. I think I've said that. Again, with BCHG, as far as when does that happen for Kwon Yadong, who knows? Probably in Q1 to Q2 of 2025, probably. Potentially Q3 or Q4, it could happen. I said 2022. 2025, damn, we're not going back in time. I think I said 2022. Man, I'm getting to the end of the day here. But yeah. I think probably sometime early next year in the first half, late Q1, early Q2. That's my thoughts. And the video that I sent you, the link that I sent you, I think that goes over the time frames better. You know, if anybody failed to see that video, I got a lot of videos posted, man. But let's see. It is, where are you? It was one that I made an inspiration to Ethan Gallstad. Shout out to the man himself. Where are you at? You got me, man. This one, BCHG and LTCN bearish patterns. That one, which was made, I don't know, when was this made? Why don't you say? Oh, right here, on the 26th of January. So probably, yeah, the 26th. That's whenever it was made. So yeah, however long ago that would be. If you search through, it's a little bit down the ways, but that video better explains why the time frames as to why I think these highs in BCHG and LTCN will come in when, you know, like Q1, Q2, stuff like that. So with that, guys, I leave you. If you like the video, hit that like button. Subscribe to see more. Thank you all for coming. Have a great day. Good night, wherever you are. Adios. Bye-bye.